Hey everyone, it's me Sana Rashid and you're watching Mass Media Master. Today we are going to discuss Syrian war, history of Syria, governments and conflict. So firstly, what's going on in Syria? Basically, the Syrian war is an ongoing multi-sided armed conflict in Syria fought between a Syrian Arab Republic and also with the domestic foreign allies and various side of domestic and foreign forces. So there's so many issues with Syria. There's so many internal and external factors that influence Syria, and it's all about a civil war in Syria. Initial uprising, Syrian rose up as a part of wave of Arab Spring protest against repressive dictators in Middle Eastern state like Egypt, then Tunisia in 2011. Assad quickly decided to emulate his father Hafiz and try to express the protest through the use of forces. The goal was to turn the broad-based protest movement from a political struggle into military ones. With his control of the army meant he might be able to get his way to victory. And next we see environmental crisis also played a role in Syrian uprisings between 2006 and 2010, and Syria experienced the worst drought in country's modern history. Hundreds of and thousands of farming families were reduced to poverty, causing a mass migration of rural people to urban shanty towns. It was in the improvement of striking rural province of Daraa in southern Syria that the first major protest occurred in March 2011. A group of children had been arrested and tortured by the authorities for writing anti-regime graffiti. Insist local people took to the street to demonstrate for political economic reforms. So security forces responded harshly, conducting mass arrest and sometimes firing on demonstrators. The violence of that regime's responses adding up visibility and momentum to the protesters' cause, and within week, so similar non-violent protests had begun to appear in cities around the country. However, state repressions. Basically the regime response had a sectarian dimensions. Many of the protests belonged to the country's Sunni majority, while the ruling Assad family were member of the country's Alawite minority. So Alawites was also dominated the security forces and irregular militants and carried out some of the worst violence against protesters and suspended opponents of the regime. So in his public statement, Assad sought to portray the opposition as Sunni Islamic extremists in mold of Al-Qaeda and as participant in foreign conspiracies against Syria. So the regime also produced propaganda stoking minorities' fears that predominantly Sunni opposition would carry out violent reprisals against non-Sunni communities. Free Syrian army. By the summer of 2011, Syria's domestic players, regional neighbors as well as global powers had both begun to split in pro and anti-Assad camps. So Assad camps in July 2011, defectors from Assad regime force formed an organized militia called the Free Syrian Army to protest to protect protesters and strike back at Assad. By January 2011 and 2012, the both years or basically the protesters' years and the Syrian uprising had developed into full-blown civil war, putting the FSA and other assorted rebel groups against Assad and his supporters. Escalation of conflict. Basically, the situation escalated into full-scale war between Syrian government and backed by Russia and Iran and anti-government rebel groups backed by United States, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the other regions. Drive the conflict. Now it's one of the important part of that presentation. So three campaigns drive the conflict. Coalition efforts to defeat the Islamic State, IS, and violence between the Syrian government and opposition forces, military operation against Syrian Kurds by the Turkish forces. Different actors. Here are different actors that play role with the Syrian civil war. One is the Syrian armed forces. Next is Sunni opposition and rebel groups, Free Syrian Army, and next is Al Salafi jihadist group, Al Nusra Front, and mixed Kurdish Arab Syrian Democratic Forces, Islamic States, and regional actor and behind. Here we see Iran entry in Syrian conflict or Syrian crisis or Syrian civil war. Iran is basically regional Shia power. Iran is believed to be spending billions of dollars a year to pop up President Assad and his Alawite dominated government, providing military advisors and subsidized weapons as well as line of credit and oil transfers. Next is Syrian allies with Tehran date back in 1980s, and it's critical to Iran regional ambitions. It uses Syria to convey weapons and other goods to its proxy militants. Next we see allies mostly notably Hezbollah and in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. These are two jihadis group, these are two terrorist group and extremist group, we say that. So in return, Assad regime gets military and political assistance from Tehran, and Iranian leaders saw the revolt against Assad as a threat, not just to him but also to them. So thus Iran is believed to have been influential in Hezbollah's decision to send fighters to western Syria to assist pro-Assad forces. So Iran has proposed to be a peaceful transition in Syria that would culminate in free multi-party elections. So it was involved in peace talks over Syria's future for the first time when the world power met in Vienna. Next, we easily see that there are many actors that against the Assad regime, that they want free Syria. So here we see another actor, that is Turkey. So the Turkish government has been a critic for Assad. So since the start of uprising in Syria, Turkey is a key exporter of the Syrian opposition and has faced by the burden of hosting almost 2 million refugees, but its policy of allowing rebel fighters, armed shipments and refugees to pass through its territory has been exploited by the foreign jihadists wanted to join IS. So Turkey agreed to let the US led coalition against IS to use its air bases for strike on Syria after IS bomb attack in July 2015. So they have been critical for coalition support of the Syrian Kurdish Popular Protection Unit YPG, an affiliate of banned Turkish Kurdistan Workers' Party, that is PKK, deemed a terrorist group of Turkey, and the EU, that is European Union, and the United States of America, that is United States. Next we see Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, since the Iraq War, the oil-rich Sunni Arab state along the Persian Gulf, particularly Saudi Arabia, the largest and the strongest, had been embroiled in a sort of Cold War with Iran, slight tertiary, both sides with wish to steer the political courses of the Middle East and see the other as a fundamental threat to their security. So Saudi Arabia says President Assad cannot be a part of a solution to the conflict and must hand over power to transitional administration or to be removed by forces. So Riyadh is a major provider of military and financial assistance to several rebel groups, including those with the Islamist ideologies, and has a call for no-fly zone to be imposed to protect civilians from the bombardment by the Syrian government forces. So Saudi leaders were angered by the Obama administration's decision that not to intervene military in Syria after 2013 chemical attack blamed on Assad forces. So they later agreed to take part in US-led coalition air campaign against IS, concerned by the group's advances and its popularity among minorities of Saudis. In this presentation, you can easily check what's going on with Syria. Civil war? No, it's an international war. 2011 too? Don't know. Assad between rebels. No more Assad. The Arab Spring 2011. Down with government. Military and protest. Shia with rebels, that is Shia and Sunni. Shia is Iran and Iraq, Sunni is Saudi Arabia and Turkey. His main rebel coalition is FSA, National Coalition. Less argumentarian government. Extremist group, that is Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Islamic State. Kurds, Democratic Unity Party, that is political autonomy. That is the part of Russia. US, Iran. US airstrikes, limited military and oil. UK. Saudi Arabia. That is Turkey. Rebels and regimes. Overthrow government and crush opposition. Rebels need that extremists fight for Islamic State, crush Kurds, gain political autonomy, but crush opposition. So that is ISI in 2015, 2019 in this way. Turkey and Russia. Turkey now in these zones. Economy of Syria. Worst situation.